When one of the most recognized men on the planet walked into a busy restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, and sat down alone, nobody paid much attention. That was exactly how he wanted it. It was a Thursday evening, October 19th, 2023, just after 7:30 p.m., the kind of autumn evening where the air outside had finally turned. Cool, and the restaurants on Peachtree Street were full, and loud and warm with the smell of food and conversation. Shaquille O'Neal, 7 feet 1 inch tall, 325 pounds, ducked through the entrance of Harvest Table on Peachtree Street, NE, a mid-sized restaurant with exposed brick walls and low-hanging Edison bulbs, and the kind of wooden tables that had been worn smooth by 10 years of elbows and dinner plates. He wore a dark green pullover, black pants, and white sneakers. His shoulders filled the space between him and the hostess stand completely. He asked for a table in the back. Corner if possible. The hostess, a young woman named Bria, 22 years old, looked up and blinked twice. Then she smiled the professional smile of someone who had been trained not to react to anything and led him to a corner booth near the kitchen door. Shaq folded himself into the booth. His knees pressed against the underside of the table. He picked up the menu and looked at it. The restaurant was full. 31 tables, 28 of them occupied. The noise level was steady, the low hum of a Thursday dinner crowd, glasses touching, silverware on plates, a table of 8 near the front laughing at something. The kitchen door swung open and closed every few minutes with a burst of heat and the smell of garlic and butter. Shaq ordered a water. He looked at the menu. He was not in a hurry. That is when he saw her, a young woman moving between tables near the center of the room. She wore the restaurant uniform, black shirt, black apron, hair pulled back. She was clearing a 4-top that had just left, stacking plates efficiently, folding the used napkins, resetting the silverware. She moved quickly. She knew what she was doing. Her name was Camille Osei, 27 years old. She had been waitressing at Harvest Table for 3 years, Tuesday through Saturday, 4 p.m. to close. She was good at her job. She remembered orders without writing them down. She knew which tables needed more water before they asked. She knew when a couple was on a first date versus a long marriage just by how they held their menus. But tonight, as she cleared that 4-top, something was wrong. She was crying, not loudly, not in a way that stopped the room. The kind of crying that a person does when they have been doing it long enough to get quiet at it. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were red at the corners. She pressed her lips together after each trip to the kitchen. When she came back out onto the floor, she reset her face into something neutral, something functional. But it was there, underneath, clear to anyone who looked. Nobody looked. The table of 8 near the front was still laughing. A couple by the window was sharing a dessert. Bria at the hostess stand was scrolling something on her phone. The manager, a man in a gray vest named Todd, was near the bar talking to a bartender. Not one person in that restaurant turned toward Camille Osei as she moved silently through her section, clearing plates, folding napkins, holding it together. Nobody except the man in the corner booth. Shaq watched. He did not stare. He was not obvious about it. But he watched. He saw the way she exhaled slowly when she thought no one could see. He saw the way she pressed the back of her wrist against her eye quickly, just once, between the kitchen door and table 7. He saw the way she stood for half a second longer than necessary at the service station, just standing, just breathing, before picking up the next order and walking back out. He had seen that before. Not in a restaurant, in his mother's kitchen in a military apartment in San Antonio, Texas, after a long shift and a hard week and a pile of bills on the counter. The way a woman who is carrying too much looks when she thinks nobody is watching. His mother, Shaquille O'Neal, had taught him something when he was 12 years old. They were living on a base in Georgia at the time. Shaq had come home from school in a bad mood, slammed the door, thrown his bag down. Lucille had looked at him and said, "Before you make today about you, look around. Someone in this house might be having a harder day than you. The question is whether you are going to see them." He had never forgotten that. He tried to see people, not perform seeing them, actually see them. He called Bria over and asked her quietly to send his waiter to the table. 2 minutes later, Camille Osei appeared at the corner booth with a small notepad. She looked up. She saw who was sitting there, Her eyes went slightly wide. She recovered quickly. "Good evening," she said. "Can I get you started with something?" "Water is fine for now," Shaq said. Then he paused. "Are you okay?" Camille blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Are you okay?" he said again. His voice was not loud. It was not performative. It was just a question. The kind a person asks when they actually want to know the answer. Camille opened her mouth, closed it. She looked down at her notepad. Her jaw tightened. "I'm fine," she said. "Thank you." Shaq nodded slowly. He did not push. He looked back at the menu. "I'll have the grilled salmon," he said. "And can you bring me some cornbread if you have it?" "We do," she said. "I'll put that in." She turned and walked toward the kitchen. Shaq watched her go. The food came 20 minutes later. Camille set it down carefully. She asked if he needed anything else. He said no. She turned to leave. "You don't have to tell me," Shaq said. "But I'm going to be here for a while. And if you want to talk, I'm not going anywhere." Camille stood very still for a moment. Then she said, "My mom is in the hospital. She said it the way people say things they have been holding back for hours. Fast." And then immediately looking away as if regretting it. "What happened?" Shaq asked. Camille looked at the table next to them, empty. She looked at the floor. Then she looked at him. "She had a stroke 2 days ago. She's stable, but they don't know yet how much. I couldn't get anyone to cover my shift, and we need the money right now, so I came in and I just—" She stopped. She pressed her lips together. "I just keep thinking about her in that room, and I'm here, and there's nothing I can do either way, so I might as well be here." She said it all in one breath. Like she had been rehearsing the logic of it all night to keep herself from falling apart. Shaq was quiet for a moment. He looked at her steadily. "What's her name?" he asked. Camille looked up. Nobody had asked her that tonight. Not Todd, not any of her co-workers, not the customers she had served for 3 hours. "Dorothy," she said. "Her name is Dorothy." "Dorothy is lucky," Shaq said. "To have somebody who shows up even when it costs them something." Camille's chin trembled. She pressed her hand flat against her apron. She nodded once, quickly, and walked away before the tears came. She did not come back to the table for 15 minutes. When she did, her eyes were dry and her voice was steady. "Can I get you anything else?" she asked. "Just the check," Shaq said. She brought it. He handed her his card without looking at the total. The bill was $47. When Camille ran the card and brought back the receipt, Shaq had already written something on the back of a napkin. He folded it and left it under the edge of the plate. He said goodnight to Bria on his way out. He ducked under the door frame. He was gone. Camille cleared the corner booth 10 minutes later. She picked up the receipt. She looked at the tip line. She sat down in the booth. She did not care that she was not supposed to sit at the tables. She sat down. She looked at the receipt again. The tip was $500 on a $47 bill. And underneath the receipt, folded under the edge of the plate, was the napkin. She opened it. 4 sentences in large handwriting. "Go be with your mother. Life is short and hospitals are lonely. Ask Todd to let you go early." "I already talked to him." Camille looked up at the restaurant. Todd was standing near the bar. He caught her eye. He nodded once and pointed toward the back where the coats were kept. She pressed the napkin against her chest. She sat in that booth for 30 seconds without moving. Then she stood up, untied her apron, and walked to the back to get her things. She was at Grady Memorial Hospital by 9:15 p.m. She walked into room 414 on the 4th floor. Dorothy Osei, 58 years old, was awake, small in the hospital bed, an IV in her left arm, a monitor beeping softly beside her. Dorothy looked at her daughter standing in the doorway, still in her work clothes, and said, "I thought you had to work." "I got off early," Camille said. She sat in the chair beside the bed and took her mother's hand. They did not talk much. They did not need to. They just sat together in the quiet room while the monitor beeped and the hallway outside hummed with the sounds of a hospital at night. At 11:00 p.m., after her mother had fallen asleep, Camille sat in the waiting room and posted a short video on her phone. No filter, no script. Just her face, still in her work clothes, eyes red, voice unsteady. She said, "A customer at work tonight asked me if I was okay. Just that. Are you okay? I hadn't realized how badly I needed someone to ask. He paid my tab, tipped me $500, and told my manager to let me go early so I could come be with my mom in the hospital. I don't know if he knows what that meant. But I'm sitting here right now, and my mom is sleeping, and I'm not alone, and that is because one person stopped and looked and asked one question. I don't know how to say thank you for that. She posted it without tagging anyone, without mentioning a name. By midnight, the video had 40,000 views. By the next morning, 1.8 million. By Saturday, 9.4 million people had watched Camille Osei sit in a hospital waiting room and describe the moment someone asked if she was okay. The comments were not about celebrity. They were about the question. Person after person writing about the last time someone had asked them that and meant it. Nurses, teachers, fathers, people on night shifts, and people in hospital waiting rooms of their own. The question traveled further than the answer ever could have. Dorothy Osei came home 11 days later. She had partial weakness on her left side that the doctors said would improve with therapy. She walked out of Grady Memorial on a Tuesday morning in November with Camille beside her, moving slowly, one step at a time. Shaq never posted anything. He never mentioned it in an interview. The only reason anyone connected the story to him at all was because Bria, the hostess, recognized him that night and mentioned it to a coworker, who mentioned it to someone else, and 3 weeks later a local Atlanta journalist put the pieces together. When the journalist reached out for comment, Shaq's response was 3 words: "How is Dorothy?" Camille Osei still works at Harvest Table on Peachtree Street. She requested Thursdays off. She spends them with her mother. They watch old films and eat the jollof rice Dorothy makes from a recipe that came from her own mother in Accra, Ghana, 40 years ago. The recipe is written on a piece of paper kept folded in the kitchen drawer. Some things you keep close. Some things keep you. On the wall beside the door of Dorothy's apartment, there is a napkin in a small frame. The handwriting is large and slightly uneven. 4 sentences. Dorothy asked what it said the first time she noticed it. Camille read it to her out loud. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That man has a good mother." She was right, because somewhere out there right now, someone is clearing tables and holding it together and hoping nobody notices. And most people will not notice. But some people will put down their menu and ask one question. Just one. And that question can be the thing that gets someone through the night. That is the story of a man who asked if a stranger was okay, and meant it. Before you go, drop a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. Atlanta, Accra, London, Sydney, wherever you are, we want to know. We rate every single one, and we love seeing how far these stories travel. If this moved you even a little, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this story reach someone out there who really needs to hear it today. Share this video with one person, someone who is holding it together right now, someone who needs to know that being seen matters. Because it does, and if you are new here, welcome. Subscribe and tap that bell. We bring you stories like this every single week. Real moments that remind you the world still has good people in it. Now click on the video on your screen right now, because the next story will move you just as much. We will see you there.